Hello there, survivors, and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. Today, I've built this Greek Astraeos Tavern. It was actually dedicated to my friend Lance because of the monarchy season, but it fits right at home in my big Greek town. Or if you're just looking for a nice base, you don't have to turn it into that tavern. It is a pretty nice house. It has multiple layers, so you have plenty of room for your storage, crafting, bedroom, etc. You've got a nice balcony to look out from, nice little walkway with all the arches going on, and you have a small stables to the back for some of the smaller tames like a horse or something of a similar size that can fit through a double door. You don't need that much for this build. It's quite a simple one, and all you need to have installed is the Astraeos custom cosmetics, and I did use a little bit of the frontier skins as well, but you could also replace that with just normal wooden textures instead if you don't own that. If you enjoy seeing these build tutorials and you want to continue to see more, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. And of course, we're starting out with a foundation. So we want to start placing this. We want to make it 2 wide for now and then make this 8 long in total. So just like that. That's going to be the start of this building. Then we want to take this across by 3 more. So 3 in total. Add this all the way along the side like so, and start filling in this entire platform as well. That's going to be the main building. Then over at one of the sides we want to add some more, but first what we want to do is add a quarter ceiling right there. Then we can add a foundation, so we have this little offset by a quarter, and then we want to make this addition 2 wide. Now on this side where we do have this quarter, we want to go in by 2, and then we can add a 2 wide thing and a 4 long thing just like this. I'm using thatch because this is going to be stables, and I think the thatch look is going to be really nice, but of course feel free to use proper foundations if you prefer it to be a little bit stronger. To add in some supports, we can of course add in some pillars right down here, and then we should be able to have just normal walls along the sides, hopefully. If not, definitely just use normal foundations, but yeah, it should work. And then we can just kind of add this as a little side addition. So those are going to be the stables. Then we want to take out our stone stairs. We want to add 2 right in front of this entrance. We want to add 2 over here as well. Then we can add them all along the side here, just like this, and we can add 2 over here. Now, if it allows you, you can of course add in a slope wall to the sides. Might not do it because of the landscaping. If you have cheats, you can ghost of course and always place them, but otherwise we'll just leave it as is. Then here on this side we want to add in a gateway, and of course we can add in the gate itself. Then over here we want to add in 2 quarter ceilings, and then another one right over there. We're going to do the same thing here on the other end, just like this. And there's going to be 2 doorways to enter the main building from. Then here on the side, we want to add in some pillars, but you also want to know if they're facing the right way. So a good way to check is with the 3rd variant. If it's facing like this, that is correct. If for some reason it is not, you can also use a temporary wall to snap the pillar to make sure that you get the right orientation. So we want to make sure that we add pillars for all of these sections, so every other 2, and then of course make sure to check whether they're all facing the right way. We can make these 2 high in total, and here on the corners we definitely want to make sure that we connect them all the way to the floor, although in some cases you might also want to do it just over here because you might be able to see like just a smidge, a hint of what used to be there below. So then of course you can also skin these because we're not going to see much, but it's just like a foundation for the pillar that is to follow. Then we can add in some ceilings next to the pillars and just continue this all the way through from one side to the next, because now we can add in our slope walls like this, which we're going to turn into the 2nd variant of the Astraeos skins to really get some nice curves going in these places. And then of course we can do this for all of these underneath, and also for all of these at the front here to really get those curves going, and it's going to be a really nice addition. Then we want to add thin pillars here to the top of this part, and we can take out our railings and add them here along the side of this, so that's going to be a nice balcony to enjoy the view in front of your base. And for these we can actually change to the frontier skin, because we want to bring in a little bit of wood alongside the Astraeos skins, because again, I really like the contrast that gives. You can of course also add in these doors right for these two sections. Okay, so now that we have this front section in place, we want to actually start on the main part of the build. So we'll take out a pillar right here and we'll make it 5 high in total, and of course connect it back down to the ground. Here on the other corner we're going to do the same thing, so add a pillar in that is 5 high in total. Then every 2 we want to add in another one of these pillars, so we're going to have a few of them going up just like this. And these pillars we actually all want to make the frontier skin, so just the ones in the building, not the ones in front below the balcony. These ones we are going to change to this nice wooden texture all the way along like so. And when we do not have the doors, we can add a beam across the bottom and also change those to the frontier skins. Above the doors we can fill in the rest of that wall just like this, but for these sections we're going to create some windows. So first of all we're going to fill in the sides with some quarter walls just like this for both of these sections. Then we want to add in double doorways in between just like this. Then of course we can add in our doors. There we go. And then the third variant of the Astraeos skins will give us very nice windows. Now you do want to probably turn off that they have the auto open function, because I mean otherwise your windows are going to be opening all the time. And then if you do have collisions possible, you can actually add in these ones just like this to create a nicer shape. And we're going to also change those into the curves to really get a nice look. Now up here we can actually add in some normal windows just like this in the middle, and then we can start filling in a bunch of this wall. So we'll just start filling it in like this, and here at the end we'll leave it open for a doorway. And of course we can start adding in the doors and windows everywhere. And then one more thing along the side, we want to add in these quarter ceilings going across from one edge to the other. And then we have one side of the build pretty much done, except of the roof, of course. So we'll change these ceilings to the frontier skins just like that. And we have a start going. Then over here on the inside, we want to add some stairs right here just like that, and then we can start adding in the next floor, which should line up with the door that we've placed. And then over here we can of course start filling in the layers like this. We'll leave these open of course because of the gateway there, but we can round it off with some triangles just like this. And of course we can then add in the railings right around the edge here. And we'll also want to add them right around the stairs, just like this. And for these layers, we can actually also change them to the frontier skin, because, yeah, we want this layer to have some nice wooden floors, just all the way through to the other side. And we can fill in the railings like that. Then it's time to work here on the area around the gate. For these sides, we just want to fill in the walls like this, all the way up to the top. And then here at the front, we can add a little layer of these quarter ceilings. We can change them into the frontier skins. Doesn't really matter too much. Then at the front, we can add in our slope walls. We can change them, of course, to be the Astraeos variant. Then we can take out our ramps, which is going to be the roof, of course. We can add them in just like this. We can, of course, also add in a nice overhang to the side. And then for official, you just want to kind of add in these overlaps on the outside without having to actually overlap anything. Just want to have a nice overhang. You can make it a little bit more subtle if you do have overlapping available. So if we remove this for a second, you can actually place a roof right there. So they overlap into each other, but you get a little bit more of a subtle overhang if you're allowed to do that. So yeah, if you want to make it slightly more subtle, that is the way to go. And then yeah, you can kind of just fill it in. And no matter what you did, you want to make sure that you add in some beams along the top and change those to the frontier skins. And here along the sides, we want to fill in these corners with some quarter walls. Same right over here. And we want to make sure that they are the same height as these walls for now. Then we can add in some slope walls right over here to fill in that shape. And if we change them to the Astraeos variant, it should line up perfectly with the shape that we already had. Then across the top here, we can have a full layer of these quarter walls. And then we have a normal layer again of full walls, just like this. And then the middle four, we want to add in some more quarter walls. And then we can have our slope walls going around like that to create the front of the building on this side. Then if we look at this side of the building, we want to start with adding some pillars right around the corner here. Leave a gap of 2. And we can start adding the pillars every other 2, just as we did on the other side of the building. So we'll fill in those all the way through. Of course, wherever we can see them, we want to make sure that they're connected all the way into the ground, just like this. And we want to change them, of course, to be the frontier skins. There we go, because we like the contrast that that gives us. So we'll do that all the way along the entire build, just like that. And of course, we want to add in some beams around the bottom layer all the way through from one side to the other. And we can also change those to be the frontier skin. Then here in the middle, we want to start filling in the first 3 layers of the build with normal walls, just like this. Then above it, we want to have a layer of these windows before filling in the final wall like normal again. And of course, we want to fill in those windows. Then for these sections at the sides, we want to start filling it in with some quarter walls. So just like that. And then just above the layer where we have these ceilings again, we want to add a layer across. Then we can continue this all the way up and then all the way across again at the top there. So just like that, 2 shapes. And this section is actually going to be very much the same thing. So we'll bring this across all the way like that. And then for this top section, we do the same thing again. So we fill it all the way in around the edges. There we go. Then we should be able to take out a double door at them right in between for all of these sections, just like this. And then of course, filling them in with our doors, just like this. We can actually change them to the grates so that we get our windows going. And then once again, if you can do it, you want to add in some of these slope walls to really get that nice shape going. If you change them into the curves later with the second variation of the Astraeos skin. And there we go. We have some nice windows on this side. And of course, all along this side, we actually want to make sure that we also add in these quarter ceilings. So from one edge to the next, we want to go and fill it in all the way through and then change it to the frontier skin to get these nice little wooden textures all the way. Then for the last remaining side, we want to start with adding some beams across the bottom, change those to the frontier skins. Then we can take out some walls along the side. We can bring it all the way up on both of these. So just like this. Then here in the middle, we want to add in some double doorways. Add in the actual doors, of course. So we can turn this into another one of these windows like this. Then we'll add in some quarter walls. There we go. And then once again, we can add in these double doors and end with a layer of these quarter walls again. Fill in the doors. change them into the grates to create another nice window. You can even, if you want to, add in a nice beam across the bottom there. And of course, we can add in the slope walls at the top if you're allowed to. Then above that, we want to add in 4 of these quarter walls and start adding in our slope walls to get the shape of the roof. And of course, we can change those like this so we actually get the right shape that we're looking for. As for the roof itself, of course, we're going to use ramps on official. Start like this, have a full overhang if you want to have an overhang on the outside. But once again, like many times before, we want to make sure that we add the snap point here if you have collisions. And then you can just bring it across in both cases all the way to the other side. And of course, here on the other side, you do the same thing. You create the overlap that works for you. And then the other side of the roof is going to be the same thing again. So we just want to fill those in all the way across until we get our roof in place. There we go. And of course, along the top, we want to make sure to add in our beams, just as an extra little detail, and add in a layer of frontier skins across those beams for the contrast. Then of course we need a roof for our balcony. Now what we want to do is add in a layer of these quarter ceilings. Technically you kind of only need them in the corners, I suppose, but I think it looks better if you just go for it all the way through. We can change them of course to be the frontier skins to get that nice look. And then we can take out our ramps. We can start right here along the edge. So you have that little overhang on the outside. You want to have 2 of them, of course. And then we can just start to bring them all the way across like this. And that should give us a nice roof above our balcony all the way that sticks out slightly so it stands out a little bit more. Then it's time for our stables here at the back. We want to add in pillars here on the corner, being 2 high, both of these. And then right here in the middle, we want to go 3 high, also making sure that we connect it back down. And on the side, we want to make sure that we have some beams going across. Now, all of that we can change to be the frontier skins, just like that. And we want to change these walls to a nice Astraeos skin in a little bit. All right, now, depending on what you want to do. We want to add in some quarter walls around the sides like this. And of course, fill in the bottom layer along the actual sides of this building. Then we want to add a railing on top of that, just like that. And we actually also want to make sure that we add a divider right here in the middle with the same principle, just like that. We can add in our double doorways as well as snap some ramps to them to get the entrance. Then we can, of course, add in the doorways. We can change a bunch to the frontier skins, except the doors themselves. So we want to just go around like this and fill in those skins. And the reason we built the floors out of thatch ceilings is just so that it looks like hay. Then for these doors, I like to use the saloon doors. Then we want to add in a beam going across this section, just like so. You can fill those in. And we can actually have some quarter ceilings coming from the wall up to where the pillars on the corners are. Also going to change those into frontier skins. Then we can take out some scaffolding to get in some nice shapes. So along the side, we want to add in those. We also want to have them here on the other side of the building, as well as underneath here in the middle. Now we want to add in some temporary walls or anything that you can snap to add in those scaffolding pieces like that. And then we can remove them. We can then add in these just down there, and we should be able to add in these above. Then we want to start with our ramps along the back wall so that they align perfectly like this. Then again, for official, you just want to continue like this. If you want to overhang on the outside, you can add a full one here, just like that. And you actually also want to make sure that you extend it back down here. Now, what we also can do, of course, if you have the overlapping available, is start one over here so that you have that slightly more subtle overhang. Bring that back down on both sides of the build, and then of course just continue to fill in the entire roof until it is completed. There we go. And of course we want to make sure to have the beam across the top. Change that to the frontier skin, and then we have a nice little stables attached to the back of your build. And with that, we've also completed the entire build. Of course, then you want to make sure that you start changing everything to the appropriate Astraeos skins. You can, of course, do whatever you want with all the variations, but I'll show you what I have done. So this is my building. Now, we've already placed all the frontier skins down. So what did I do for the walls? Now, in theory, you want to always have the top layer be the third variant to get the fancy details. Then below it, you have the second variant, then the first variant. Then we have the second variant, but then changing it to look like this. And the, well, the bottom here is normal, of course, along all the way. But wherever you could see it, you would have the first variant, but change it to the full bricks again. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 along the sides. Then these little details are either the second or third variant. The blanco ones are the first variant. And of course, the roofs start with the layer of the third variant to get the details, and then the second variant for the rest of it. And that is basically the kind of pattern you want to follow. For the windows, I've used the first variant. And also for the doors, I've used the first variant to get those nice doors. And that is kind of how you just want to go all the way around until everything is nicely filled in. But you can see this is what it turns into. And of course, I've added a few extra details, mostly the plants being from JVH Landscaping, as well as some additional details with like Western Deco Mod, Castlecraft Deco Mod, as well as Castle Keeps and Forts, just because that's the mods that I have on my server. But I've also added in this little banner by having 2 thin pillars, some scaffolding beneath it, and a hanging sign. This one is dedicated to Lance, of course, because of Monarchy. So we have a little dodo dermis on top of it, just as a little detail. Definitely a fun detail for your own tavern if you really want to, you know, get like that cool little looking custom sign, which you can always do, of course, because these ones from Castlecraft are very fun. But I mean, I think there might be a cosmetic version for it as well. I don't know what is in that, but yeah. It's cool details. But yeah, we have our tavern here. So we have this walkway. Now, in my case, it's slightly different because I built a whole city or town around it. So instead of the stairs going down, I've got like a little terrace here with some places to sit. And then the stairs go down here. But for the rest, it's pretty similar. We have the lovely stables back here with some Western Deco hay in it, just to bring some more life to the place. And yeah, that's kind of it. I don't have the interior done yet, so that is kind of what it looks like for me. But I'm quite happy with the way this one turned out. I think it's a really fun build, and I hope you like it as well. It's definitely a nice building to use as your base. Whether you're using it as a tavern or not, it's totally up to you, of course. But there we go. That is it for this build tutorial. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds that I need to add to my Greek town, or any other builds that you'd like to see down in the comments below. For now, thanks for watching, and goodbye.